In the town of Innisfail in far north Queensland, Doug and Sherry Meyer were anxiously waiting for their 17-year-old son Gabe to return home for dinner.
So it was school holidays. He was getting ready to start grade 12. He was a responsible kid that would always let us know wherever he was. When he didn't come home by about 7:30, 8 o'clock, we'd already had dinner, and I just thought, wow, this is really strange.
Gabe had never done anything like that before. And as it got dark, we started getting a little nervous about it.
We didn't want to panic. We did try to lie down, and I was kind of up and down through the night, checking his bed, seeing if he'd come in, and I didn't hear him.
Sherry said, we have to do something here. We have to start calling hospitals and just see if there were any car accidents, which we did, and there were none.
The last time Doug had seen his son was when he dropped him off at the local gym the afternoon before. Gabe's gym buddy, Damon Kalanka, was there at the time.
As soon as first light came, we were getting more and more anxious. So we drove over to Kalanka's house. I thought it might not be a bad idea to find out if he knew anything. And I go, Gabe didn't get home last night. Do you know anything about this? He goes, he was here last night, and when he left, it was about dark. He told me he was going to go over to the pontoon. I think he was going swimming. That was something I knew he wouldn't do, especially at dark.
So Damon and Doug headed there immediately.
So we went to the pontoon. There was nothing there. There was absolutely nothing around, none of Gabe's belongings or anything there. So I told him, I said, look, I think I need to go talk to the police. That's when it all started.
18 months before Gabe disappeared, Doug Meyer, a boat builder, moved his young family to Innisfail from Miami, Florida, in pursuit of a quieter life.
We managed to buy a house on the river. How nice can it be? Great Barrier Reef just offshore. Magic place.
1,600 kilometres from Brisbane, Innisfail was an idyllic spot for Gabe and his 5 siblings to grow up.
Gabe loved his family, and we all just loved him so much. His brothers and sisters adored him.
Especially his older sister, Fawn. They were inseparable.
He was kind of the instigator for our family, kept life for us exciting, and sorry.
When Doug reported his son missing, the police honed in on the last person to see Gabe before he disappeared.
I was working that morning with 2 other detectives when the initial missing person report came in. When Doug told us about seeing Damon Kalanka that morning, we immediately had concerns.
The name Kalanka rang alarm bells for the police. The last time they'd heard his name had been 14 months earlier, when they'd received a call from a local farmer.
I just got this guy rocked up on my door. He's got blood everywhere, fair income.
I received a phone call at the office from Uniform Police. I then immediately went out there.
He's got a knife. He's claiming someone's trying to kill him.
I spoke to the victim, a fellow by the name of Paul Malik, and he had the look of death in his eyes.
The attacker was Damon Kalanka. Malik was dating Kalanka's ex-girlfriend, and he wanted her back. The 2 men had gone for a drive that night to sort it out.
Malik said, we got out of the car, I stood in the passenger side, I turned my back on him for a couple of moments. And the next thing I know, Kalanka had a knife and he'd stabbed me in the back. And then Kalanka's hand had slipped down the knife. He'd actually cut his hand on the knife, dropped it. Malik grabbed the knife and just ran for his life. And then Kalanka got back in the car and then chased him, tried to run him down. Malik was just lucky enough that he jumped out of the way of the speeding car and Kalanka crashed the car into some bush. And And that's when Malik then ran to the farmhouse nearby and told them, ring the police, ring the police. You know, this bloke's trying to kill me.
There's a lot of blood. Can you get the guys out quick? He's not looking good.
After investigating the incident, charged Kalanka with attempted murder.
But when it went to court, unbelievably, the prosecution downgraded the charge. Kalanka was only given community service and he was a free man. Now, 14 months later, he was part of another potential murder investigation.
Kalanka told police that he was with Gabe at the gymnasium and was working out with him for a while, assisting him in weight training. Then Gabe went to his flat later in the afternoon where they were both looking through magazines, bodybuilding magazines, and Kalanka had supplied him a drink of sustagen to assist in muscle growth during the training period.
Just like a protein shake. He had to do that, and then at 5:30 he said, "I'm going," and I said, "See you later."
And after this, Kalanka told police that Gabe had left the flat and stated that he was going for a swim in the Johnson River.
If what Kalanka said was true, then Gabe was probably dead.
The Johnson River is infested with crocodiles. It's an extremely dangerous area to swim in.
Gabe had grown up around water, often helping his father Doug with his boat building business.
Gabe loved the water, but he was also very respectful of the water because it's a well-known spot for crocodiles. We just didn't think he would have gone swimming, but we were just so dumbfounded. We thought anything was a possibility.
We certainly had the SES search the river in vessels. If Gabe had been taken by a crocodile, perhaps the body had been left in some mangroves.
Crocodiles in general, if they take a person or a carcass or whatever, they will then hide it under nearest mangrove and then go back to it to finish digesting it later.
But there was no sign of Gabe's body on the riverbanks. However, 48 hours later, there was a phone call. Doug and Sherry Meyer were living their worst nightmare. After 48 hours, their 17-year-old son was still missing.
Gabe was tall for his age. He was just a beautiful boy, very slender, very sporty in that if he wasn't fishing, he was swimming or, you know, he was out there.
But where out there was a mystery.
You know, we always had to think, he's 17, maybe he had run away. The police, of course, would have to investigate that. We'd just like to tell him that we love him, and
Yeah.
we just,
Yeah.
we just want him to let us know if he's safe. And,
Give us a call, no matter what.
we really love him.
We love you, Gabe.
The response from the public was huge.
There were different phone calls coming through on many sightings in Cairns, possible sightings at the Gold Coast.
But one phone call in particular brought the investigation back to the crocodile-infested river.
Yeah, so my boyfriend and I went down to the pontoon recently and I did see some stuff down there. There was some shoes, definitely a bag, and possibly a towel.
The description given sounded like they were Gabe's.
They then threw them into the river.
I'm really sorry.
That action frustrated the police. But they learned from the caller that those items were seen on the 12th of January, the exact same night that Gabe disappeared.
The police rang and we were told they had been by the pontoon, which is where Kalanka had said Gabe would have gone swimming. We were still really dubious that he did go swimming, but we did have to consider it.
We decided to have a search of the actual river itself. We did this in case Gabe was silly enough to go for a swim and had been taken by a crocodile. And the only way we could do this properly was to utilise police divers.
The Johnston River was so dangerous that police had to set off explosives to scare off any man-eating crocs before the divers could go in.
Quite Quite amazingly, within 30 seconds of the divers submerging to commence their grid search, one of them surfaced holding a watch. It was quite extraordinary. I immediately returned to the Innisfail police station where Gabe's parents were. And I could see their faces. As soon as they were shown the watch, their faces fell.
And we went in there and they had Gabe's watch. Obviously Gabe's.
They also found his shoes and knapsack washed up on the shore near the pontoon. So it opened up many questions for the police. Was Gabe alive somewhere, in danger, or dead? The only thing they knew for sure was that his last known whereabouts was with Damon Kalanka.
Gabe was a beanpole, you know, that age where you're growing tall and not filling out quite enough. And Kalanka was a weightlifter, so it was pretty easy to talk Gabe into doing weights.
Gabe's sister Fawn also hung out at the gym, but for a whole different reason.
She told us she met this guy and that he'd kind of followed her around a bit, and she thought he was nice, you know, and they had talked at the gym.
He was a good-looking guy, muscular, healthy.
Clean-shaven, neatly dressed, took care with his appearance. He didn't drink alcohol and he didn't do drugs.
And the two began to date. He was 26, Fawn was 19.
How do you know every morning? I was going with his sister, and her brother comes to the gym, and I see him at the gym all the time, and I've been just close friend from at the gym.
But we felt he was really intense. I don't know, he was just being too nice.
You're in line for all kinds of surprises with a daughter, you know. You kind of have to go along with her decisions in life.
So her parents were pretty happy when 3 weeks later, Fawn flew off to the United States to start her 3-year university degree. Not so Damon Kalanka. He was shattered. It was right on Christmas, and it wasn't the present he was expecting.
He actually went to the airport with us. He was devastated.
We discussed that we should invite this guy to Christmas.
She went to America, and the family got really close to her, and they invited me over for Christmas, and they were really close to me.
So he did come on the Christmas and stayed for about an hour or so. I think that's probably the last I saw him.
But it wasn't the last time Fawn heard from him. Kalanka's New Year's resolution was to convince Gabe's sister to come back.
He was writing letters. She said sometimes she'd get 2 letters in a day. Letters that indicated that the relationship still had a chance. And when was she going to come home and that kind of thing.
He was having difficulty handling the rejection or the breakup.
In one letter, Kalanka had claimed to be suffering from throat cancer. He wasn't. He was trying anything to trap Fawn, his latest obsession, into returning to Innisfail.
It looked like we may have a problem developing, that he was a little bit too clingy.
So we said to her, Fawn, you have to really strongly say, you can't contact me anymore.
She needed to cut it off. However, she had to do it, and we left that up to her.
17-year-old Gabe Meyer, who had his whole life ahead of him, had now been missing for 5 days. His family were grief-stricken, especially his sister Fawn.
His older sister, Fawn, they were so close. They were the closest in age of all the kids. So it was really difficult for her.
He was a very spiritual person, very responsible, and a very trusting person.
One of those Gabe trusted, Damon Kalanka, was of great interest to the police. Not only because he was the last person to see Gabe before he disappeared, but because of his fixation with Gabe's sister Fawn.
Kalanka became very obsessed with her. You know, he wanted to be with her all the time, wanted her to be the only person in his life.
When Fawn moved to the United States, the love-struck gym junkie didn't get the message that the 3-week-old romance was over and kept bombarding her with letters begging her to come home.
It was difficult for her, being 19. She wasn't sure what to do, how to handle this guy's full-on attention.
So, taking the advice of her parents, she bit the bullet and made a phone call.
You've got to stop calling me, Damon. I'm not coming back. Hey? No, I've got my studies here and you have to move on.
Kalanka then realised he would have to do something drastic to get Fawn back.
And she said something to the effect of, I would only come back if my family was hurt or something happened to my family.
A short time later, Gabe went missing.
14 months earlier, police had arrested Kalanka after he had stabbed a man who was seeing his ex-girlfriend. Now detectives were struck by the chilling similarities between that case and the obsession he had with Fawn.
It appears that Kalanka has some issues with relationships with females, and when those relationships break down, bad things happen.
So, with a violent history and the bizarre thought that Kalanka may have kidnapped or killed Gabe to get Fawn to return to him, the police took a closer look at Kalanka's alibi for that night.
Kalanka stated that he had hired a utility with the intention of taking a roll of carpet to his sister in Tully.
The country town of Tully is 54 kilometres south of Innisfail.
The first thing we did was to seize the rented ute and the carpet. Police immediately thought that was rather odd because the carpet was old, certainly not something you would give as a gift to somebody. It was rather deteriorated and dirty.
But the story was corroborated by one of Kalanka's neighbours.
Mr. Narinder Singh was interviewed and stated that he saw Kalanka loading a roll of carpet into the rear of the utility. At that time, Narinder asked for a lift down to the pub so he could cash a paycheck. So Kalanka did that, and Narinder did tell police that Kalanka stated that he was driving to Tully to see his sister.
However, after driving the exact same distance that Kalanka claimed he had, it just didn't add up.
There was immediately a gross inconsistency between the mileage that we travelled and the mileage that was reported on the hire vehicle. That immediately told us that he had certainly gone somewhere else.
But establishing where he went and if Gabe's body was there was proving difficult. Then a phone call came through that suggested the answer, and surprisingly, it was from a 15-year-old friend of Kalanka's.
Hi, yeah, this is James Potter.
A witness by the name of Potter contacted police by telephone, and he gave us some information about a place called Polly Creek, which was in bushland near to Innisfail.
I don't know if this will be any use to you, but I know you've been talking to Damon Kalanka. Anyway, a couple of weeks back, Damon took me down to Polly Creek.
It was January the 10th, 2 days before Gabe went missing.
This young lad, he had travelled to Polly Creek with Kalanka, and Kalanka had marked a trail leading into this bushland with 2 cross sticks, like an X, to mark the spot.
And he said he was going to remember the spot. It's pretty weird at the time.
Is there anything else that you can tell me?
A little while later, Damon asked if he could borrow a shovel.
When Detective Benstead learned about the shovel, his mind returned to the attack on Paul Mellick 14 months before.
There was alarm bells in my mind, well and truly. In the boot of the car that Kalanka was driving, he had a shovel, plastic bags, there was plastic all spread out in the boot. It looked like someone was going to put something into the boot and didn't want to contaminate the boot carpet. I thought to myself, well, if Mellick had died, he was going to get buried somewhere. So when Potter rang up and said Kalanka had asked if he could borrow a shovel from him, I then had an eerie feeling that there's something very sinister going on.
Detectives believed Damon Kalanka was desperate and delusional and would do anything, even murder, to get back the object of his obsession.
The only way I'd come back to Innisfail is if my family was hurt, if something happened to my family.
He had already tried it once before.
His idea was maim or kill Malik, so he'd get his girlfriend back. Simple as that.
Now a phone call had come through that suggested he may have been successful this time. 27-year-old Kalanka had taken a young friend to Polly Creek near Innisfail. It was 2 days before Gabe disappeared.
Damon just picked up these 2 sticks and put them down in a cross shape. It was pretty weird at the time.
We identified the cross sticks and then we walked into the bush area approximately 30 metres from the trail, where police located a large mound of palm fronds. We removed the palm fronds and located a hole in the ground.
It appeared to be a nearly dug grave. It was 6 or 7 feet long, 2 feet wide, foot deep.
It was macabre, looking at an empty grave. I had goosebumps at the time. It was just very, very freaky.
It was exactly the same size as what a human being would go into. Knowing that Gabe was a reasonable height, yeah, it was close to his size.
But there was no sign of Gabe in it, or in the other 2 small grave-like holes that were discovered beside it.
We did go out there and have a look. It was very disturbing and shocking to see that 2 of them were small, children-sized graves, and it brought me back to the Christmas dinner. Kalanka was picking the children up and putting them down, and I had this chilling thought that quite possibly at that point he was trying to think how he could target our family, which child he could take out to cause the most damage to the rest of us.
We just thought, oh my God, was he going to kill one of our other kids too? It was horrible.
So, not knowing if Gabe was still alive or had been murdered and buried elsewhere, the police decided to use his twisted fixation with Fawn to their advantage. They asked her to play a cat-and-mouse game with her ex-boyfriend.
One of the avenues of investigation that we used was what's called a pretext phone call. We'd contacted Fawn in America with the intention of her ringing Kalanka and raising the issue of Gabriel being missing, with the hope that Kalanka would tell Fawn some information that we did not have.
We were really scared for Fawn. She was just a beautiful young girl, and we just knew how devastating this all was for her. We didn't even want to ask her, but Fawn wanted to do it.
So, Fawn rang Kalanka from Miami, and the police recorded it.
What's going on over there?
They're putting me through the ringer over here. The way I feel at the moment, I feel really depressed.
The problem was we didn't know where Gabe was, and we were really frightened that if we pushed him too far, he might kill Gabe if Gabe was alive.
My parents are too upset to talk, and I'm just thinking, you know, I wouldn't go back there till I wouldn't go back there till I had proof that he didn't run away.
I think there, Fawn was really trying to put a bit of pressure on him to say something.
Stay there until they find, like, you know, him dead, or you know, if he's been murdered or whatever. The point of it is, don't come back. You know, he'll turn up. He will. Don't worry.
Yeah, I hope so.
She just tried in her own way to get him to think, well, she'll come home if I give her something, but he didn't.
So Kalanka was hauled back in for questioning about what happened at Polly Creek. But he was as cool could be.
You know he had a couple of apologies. Yes, I did. When was the last time we took him up to Polly Creek?
About 3 or 4 weeks ago, something like that maybe.
Well, have you been back there since time we were up at Potter? Do you mark a spot up there at all?
I put a thing there so I don't remember where to go there again because it was, I put 2 pieces of wood, but that was about it.
When asked, Kalanka didn't deny digging the holes at Polly Creek.
I supposedly trying to go some marijuana for myself to sell for my own use, not for my use, but to get some money together. I planted that off there 6 foot long, 7 foot long, that I about 2 feet deep.
To say that it could be used for growing marijuana was just farcical. If someone wants to grow marijuana plants in Innisfail, you don't have to try very hard. Just planting a seed in the ground a couple of inches is certainly sufficient to start growing plants.
I don't want to lie to you. I don't want to put any smoke screens up and say, oh, I'm doing this and that. Because you only get yourself caught in trouble if you keep trying to tell stories.
So, with his so-called willingness to tell the truth, the detectives asked him a direct question.
What do you say to the rumour that you've killed the young Gabriel in order to get Fawn to come back to Australia?
Like I said to Fawn, you bring me on Monday. We were talking about it and I said, look, if you thought that I did this just to get you back, you would go back anyway. I love the family a lot. You know, I've got no intention of hurting anybody and I would never do that like that. But he's probably said to somebody now, probably just having the first time in his life.
Then the forensic results came through on the ute and the carpet.
That included soil testing of the vehicle, fingerprints from the vehicle, and also a polylight check on the interior, which would reveal bodily fluid traces. All traces were negative. There was nothing to link Gabe to the utility or to the carpet.
Nor did they find anything in Kalanka's flat.
We conducted various searches of the flat. Polylight was used in the flat to determine if there was any spatter patterns. Unfortunately, nothing was identified.
So, after 2 weeks of searching for Gabe, it was decided to wind down the investigation.
It was disheartening for all of us at the time. Always is in this sort of investigation, because you feel for the families. But unless we got further information, we had nothing further to proceed on.
We were angry. I remember my husband, Doug, just saying, what are you doing? You can't be serious. You can't possibly do this.
And I said, you will never convince me that Kalanka is innocent.
It was Australia Day, but in the town of Innisfail, no one was celebrating, except Damon Kalanka. 2 weeks had gone by, and while police knew his obsession with Fawn Meyer had turned deadly, they lacked enough evidence to prove he had killed her brother Gabe.
We're feeling discouraged in the office. We didn't have a lead, we didn't have anything. What we needed was a member of the public to come forward and say, hey, we've seen something happening, it's suspicious, and find his body. And then I think it was around 11:30 in the morning, I received a phone call, and it was the most significant call we got.
Hi, it's Margaret Carmichael here. I just want to give you a call because I saw something on my walk last night and smelt something really bad.
And she told me there was a possible grave on the creek bank near where she lived.
It does smell like a dead pig. I just hope it's a dead pig.
It wasn't outright elation, but it was, okay, we've got to do this, let's go down there.
When Mrs. Carmichael told police her address, they realised this was the missing piece of the puzzle.
I'm in one of the game barracks on the farm. Ours is the first lot, and the second barracks, Frank Kalanka's.
His parents resided in a small house immediately beside Mrs. Carmichael, so he was raised in that area.
He knew that area like the back of his hand. He wandered around there. He had knowledge of the area.
The family home at Martyville was only 12 kilometres from Damon's flat in Innisfail, the last place Gabe had been seen alive.
So he took us to where it was, and this area was covered up in small, broken off tree branches and bush, and there was lots of flies over it. And it appeared to be a shallow grave.
The police then carefully began to dig. Moments later, their worst fears were realised.
It was a young man, and he was wrapped in a blanket with a red and white rope.
There was little doubt that this, sadly, was the body of the missing 17-year-old Gabe Meyer.
I can still remember it as if it was yesterday. It just rattles me to the core even now. You know, we just felt so sad. And then Detective Sergeant Mick Jacobs, he actually notified the family. That was just heartbreaking for him.
I'd become quite close with them. It was one of the most difficult tasks I'd ever done in my life, was to attend that residence on that day and advise them that we believed we'd found their son deceased.
I think Doug and I both knew as soon as that car pulled up into our driveway and the two detectives got out, and they said the body of a young boy had been found. And they said he was buried in a shallow grave. And we had to tell our little ones. And Fawn, she lost a real friend. Somebody who she's shared all her childhood with. That's what we had to do.
Back at Martyville, Margaret Carmichael had seen something else that supported the notion that Kalanka was the cold-blooded killer police had long suspected him to be.
The day before, on the 25th of January, she saw Kalanka positively identify him as Damon Kalanka riding a girl's pink push bike from down that area on the cane farm.
Mrs. Carmichael had already walked past the grave site that morning when she saw Kalanka heading down the trail towards that area. When she returned home that evening, she noticed the mound had changed.
The mound of dirt appeared to have more leaves placed over it since she initially saw it, which would be interpreted as further attempts to conceal the mound.
This sighting of Kalanka confirmed what the police already knew. But detectives still needed concrete evidence, and they needed to determine how Gabe had been murdered.
There was absolutely no signs whatsoever of any forced trauma, stab wounds, or anything else. Nothing whatsoever. And that puzzled the investigators greatly as to what had happened.
The 17-year-old school student's body was found on Tuesday, 2 weeks after he disappeared. Detectives are especially anxious to find out who owned this blanket found near Gabriel's body.
Not long after, one more damning call came through, and it was from Kalanka's ex-wife.
She informed me that her and Kalanka had a very similar blanket when they were married. She had last seen the blanket when she left him. He still had the blanket.
Then there was the rope that had tied Gabe's wrists and ankles.
Kalanka's flatmates identified similar rope that had been stored in their kitchen, and when they tried to locate that rope, it was found to be missing.
When pathological liar Damon Kalanka was interviewed about his missing friend Gabe Meyer, he thought he could fool the police.
But I'm angry with him, the fact that I'm going through all this. Yeah. I just don't want to get blamed for something, like they put something on me and I go to jail. That's what was really upsetting me.
In his mind, he had done it once before, getting away with the attempted murder of Paul Mellick after a 000 call.
He's got blood everywhere. He's claiming someone's trying to kill him.
But his time was up. Police had the results from the toxicologist.
I have the results here for Gabe Meyer, and he has definitely been drugged. From the test, we found a combination of drugs, and these drugs can be found in your cold and flu capsules.
Experts told us that due to the concentrations of chemicals in the blood, Gabe would be unconscious or deceased shortly after taking that amount of drugs.
Police then remembered Kalanka's first interview.
They were promising to start. It's like a protein shake.
Detectives believed Kalanka had lured Gabe to his flat.
He said, I got it for you. Amazing enough, mate.
And then, trusting his gym buddy, Gabe drank the deadly cocktail.
There was nothing wrong with it, I just made him up for it. He had to do that, and then at 5:30 he said, I'm going, and I said, see you later.
An innocent comment all of a sudden had sinister connotations.
While there was no trace of the drugs in the tin they seized, detectives did locate the final piece of evidence they needed.
We did conduct inquiries with various chemists throughout Innisfail, and fortunately a chemist did remember Kalanka purchasing 2 packets of cold and flu tablets, and she even produced a receipt.
The receipt not only showed the purchaser's name as D. Kalanka, but the date was startling to the detectives. It was the 6th of January, the day after Fawn had broken off her relationship with Kalanka.
I'm not coming back. You have to move on. The only way to come back to Innisfail is if my family was hurt, if something happened to my family.
It was like a switch was flipped. I think he needed to have a relationship, and when that relationship was denied him, he became angry and full of rage. And I think as soon as he knew that the relationship wouldn't go ahead, he started to plan Gabe's death.
That receipt certainly provided us with enough evidence to implicate Kalanka in this murder. And the decision was made to arrest Kalanka. And when I arrested him, it was as if I invited him out to go for coffee. He was very nonplussed, extremely calm, no tears, no emotion shown whatsoever. I immediately said that I'm looking at a total sociopath here. This guy just does not care.
He just gave Gabe no chance. He just literally was going to kill him, and he did.
But in killing Gabe, Kalanka slipped up and had to make a split-second decision. Police believed his original plan was to take a drowsy Gabe to Polly Creek.
I believe what actually happened is that Kalanka overdid the dosage of cold and flu tablets, and he had an unconscious or dead body on his hands, and he had to make alternate arrangements.
In that moment, he chose the place he knew best, the spot where he grew up.
I just want to give you a call because I saw something on my walk last night and smelt something really bad.
Before that call, detectives were at a loss to nab Kalanka.
We did not have enough evidence at that time, and because of her sighting and her call to police, it led us to a successful arrest.
Kalanka was sentenced to life imprisonment with a non-parole period of 13 years.
Every year since then, he's been able to apply for parole. Each time we plead with the parole board and try to point out what we know, which is that he will kill again on release. It's just a matter of time.
Damon Kalanka is a calculating, cold-hearted, conniving human being, and honestly should never be released, period, ever. To gain the affection or love of 2 beautiful young women, and then to try and kill Malik to get to the first one, and then to murder Gabe Meyer to get to his sister, just wrong. So wrong. So wrong.
Had Kalanka gotten the sentence that he really needed in the Paul Melick case, he would have been doing time in jail at the time of Gabe's murder. It would have been a completely different story for us.
When we lost Gabe, I said when this happened that our family would try our best to make sure that this never happened to another person and to another family. We made that promise to Gabe, and we'll stay committed to that promise. We do not want to see Kalanka kill someone else.